another stigma, while we're staying on stigmas, another stigma in hip hop is that, and this really pissing me off, so I'm glad we're having this conversation, but the stigma of hip hop being the trigger, that's ironic that I would use that word, but the trigger for violence that happens, especially in the black community, and also what some would say the violence that, you know, other ethnicities, like, you know, mostly white ideally, but that they also experience as well. They feel like they get that from hip hop. I mean, you gotta think about it. I think a great example, especially early on, is Eminem. So you got somebody like Eminem, and you got kids listening to M. You talk about Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP. That's a vulgar, like, that's an understatement. Like, M is insane, bro.
You take your kid to church and pray for them after they listen to that shit.
Right, like M is insane. You know what I'm saying? But people associate, because people feel like it's the same way people feel like about video games and such. Like, if this is what you're being exposed to at a certain age, and you are normalizing this in some capacity as a child, but I don't like that seems to be the assumption. So more so, like, why do you feel like that's a stigma? And I know we both already like disagree that like we feel like it shouldn't be a stigma in general, but just what's your personal stance on that? Because I know where I'm at, but what's yours?
I look at it like this. When you talk about art in general is somebody expressing themselves, and in that expression it can come in many forms. So when these rappers are putting in their music about their violent upcoming that they have, or any way to make ends meet, or whether it's $1 to feed their family, any type of way of survival, media in general is gonna look at that shit as like, oh, it goes against everything of what stands for the American dream, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But the American dream for people like us, of our color and shit like that, and even of who you mentioned, is not the typical of what you, how to get $1 and shit like that. Like, we don't have these ambitions to work a motherfucking 9 to 5. The people that are making this music don't have that ambition to work a 9 to 5. They see beyond that. But in order to get some type of income, some type of way of survival, it is exactly what they rap about. Now, not to say, let's put it like this, in the context of how hip hop came up, the people, they didn't choose that life. You know what I'm saying? That is what they accustomed to. That is what they grew up around. Now, what hip hop is, or rap, in the sense of what it is today, a lot of those people, some don't choose that life, some do, and they glorify to the extent of like, this is me, this is who I am, this is the profile of the artistry of what I am and shit like that. But the original of what hip hop was formed on, niggas ain't wanna like, if you listen to early hip hop, it's talking about how to get away from everything that they seen on everything.
Yeah, it's a getaway. Hip hop has always been an escape, and I think, and that was really gonna lead into my next question, because I think sometimes, and I think it's a big thing about appropriation, because if you're not of this community, if you don't understand that music is an outlet for most, then you're missing the whole point of what's being said. When the assumption comes in that, oh, we're saying this almost as if intentionally to get children or to get people to respond in a certain way, nah, like, this just happens to be my story. And I think that, so it kind of leads to my question, do you think that the stories, the trauma, the experiences, of a lot of rappers are maybe not downplayed, but they're being kind of undermined and overshadowed by what people think is just us trying to get people to act a certain way?
All of that, or what you just said, is literally, it's like damn near one of them all above type answers.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's like, if you're angry about the content that they're putting out, then okay, if you're hearing this and your kid is hearing this, why not be like, okay, this person needs help or this person needs that, but you jump strictly onto the criticism bandwagon of like, damn, he's rapping about this and he's talking about that. Obviously this motherfucker is not right in the head, or they has experienced some shit that's not normal for the typical motherfucker to experience. So it's just like, all right, if my child is a fan of this, I need to look into what my child got going on in their life, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let me be more engaged and involved in that to see like, why is this relatable to them? Why are they listening to this? Like, why are they reaching on to that? And as far as that artist, like, damn, like, maybe that person needs professional help. I think that's the perspective that motherfuckers need to be coming from, instead of just giving it that stigma like, hip hop off rip is violent. No, motherfucker, the shit that they rap about that they went through.
But even if it is, that's what they see.
That's their
like
life.
that's their life.
That's their life.
Like what I don't like is when it's like you can't take away somebody's experience. So to make it seem like almost, it's kind of like you had a choice to rap about anything else, but you chose to rap about the most violent thing. Excuse me, ma'am, I don't know nothing but this.
I seen my own boy get shot in the motherfucking
But
head.
again, it goes into appropriation. It goes into people who can't relate to the music, and it goes into people trying to like rap. Rap in general has become probably the most. One could argue, and one could make a strong argument that rap is the most popular genre of music. And so, once you see that happen, and once it becomes mainstream, especially as you see certain songs have the ability to go mainstream from so many different avenues now. Like, if it's not from the radio, it could be from a social media platform. If it's not a social media platform, it could. There's so many ways people can be put on and people can hear rap music because of how much it's used, either from a marketing standpoint,
TV show
soundtracks, all of that. So it's not, and I guess my thing is this: art, like you said, art is a person's experience. It's a very creative process, and it's something that is very personal and individualistic, and that should be how all art, that's how all art should be. And so if that's the case, we don't control making it mainstream. It going mainstream don't got nothing to do, like, our story is our story regardless of whether just our community hear it or the world hear it. So then when the world hears it and then wants to say whatever they say about, oh, well, you're causing people to do this. Like, Lil Timmy can't relate. It ain't my fault that Lil Timmy don't really know what I'm talking about. So his own interpretation of what I'm saying looks like this and you have a problem. That's not my fault as an artist because you don't know my story. So, and that's what pisses me off. And it's only that. Well, it's a completely different conversation when you talk about how black children respond, because while we're in the same community, you still have a lot of people who feel like there either could be a better way or there's something else you could be saying, knowing that as we grow up in our communities, you have athletes or it's rappers, and that's who kids is looking up to. So that's the easy way to get. But then that go into the role model question though, because now it's like, should rappers be role models?
And I'm gonna honestly say this: like, a rapper that understands his past, understands his present, and has a grasp on where he want to go with his future and exactly what he want to do.
Better say that, man.
Of course, he can be a fucking role model.
Psychology?
Hell yeah, he could be a role model.
Go ahead.
Like, yes, but
I think you made a big difference though. I'm sorry to interrupt, but can and should are two completely different things.
And it goes into exactly, okay, like for instance, let's take a rapper like 21 Savage. When he first came into the industry, of course he still rapping about AKs and all that shit like that. But exactly what he was rapping about, and then to where he transitioned to talking about financial literacy, motherfucker, that is a role model.
It is.
You don't have a lot of people that have that. Like, you have people that are strictly in the field of like financial literacy and trying to get back to the black community, and all that is understandable. But when you come from a standpoint of mainstream, you come from a standpoint of celebrityism, it's like, these are what the young generation is looking to. So when somebody like 21 Savage is sitting up there talking about financial literacy to a motherfucker that's 16 through 19 years old, and they grasping that concept of like, oh damn, I need to be making this type of income, or how many different incomes, or owning this, or like I need to be over anything that I touch, I need to own, and they're understanding that. That is what you call a fucking role model. Like, I don't like when you try to take away somebody, when you try to say like, this person can't be a role model because of the life that they live. Nigga, you contradicting everything of what a role model stands for. They went through those experiences. They went through those fuck ups, those trials and errors. So now they're at that point in their life, I can guide the next motherfuckers after me to say, hey, bro, don't do that. And if you are gonna do this in this type of way, or be smarter about the decisions that you're making. Yes, rappers can and should be role models. It's all about the ones you choose, how they go about it. Now, if a motherfucker is just sitting there saying gang, gang, pull a gun, kill a nigga and shit like that, you have enough common sense to be like, you know what I'm saying? That ain't the person that you should be listening to. Now, if a motherfucker's trying to change, evolve from that, give them a fucking chance and opportunity to be a role model.
No, that's hella real. And 21, for example, is one of those few artists that, if I'm not mistaken, he owns all his masters, right?
Owns all
his masters, and that's a whole other conversation about artists not having their masters, being in 360 deals, all that. That's a whole complete different episode. But again, to your point, it goes back to the can and should. I think people, it's because they do the same thing with athletes. I think people look at status and they want to say, you have this status, you have this platform, you have this reach that makes it to where you are supposed to be a role model. And I feel like that's very touchy, and we have to be careful, because me making a decision, yes, I am aware of the platform I would ideally want if I'm being a rap artist.
I don't have to do shit.
But I shouldn't have to, and I don't want to use the word conform, but I shouldn't have to.
That shouldn't be placed on me.
Yeah, the responsibility per se, the responsibility in the context of my profession should be to be authentic and to make the best product that I can potentially make. That should be the expectation of me within my profession. Do I understand that it goes past my profession and I reach other people? Sure. Yeah. But to put the responsibility on me as an artist to try to say something when, in all honesty, what I say, I have no control over how people receive it. No artist has any control, true control over that. You can do your best to be politically correct or to make sure, like,
but it's so hard,
but not even with them being politically correct, but you can do your best to make sure, like, what I'm talking about is real, what I'm talking about is correct, is accurate, as my homeboy Joe would say. Link, what's up, how you doing, pimp? But yeah, so like but like you said, when you place that responsibility, it's kind of like, it's extremely unfair. And not unfair because it's the artist can't handle it or can adapt, but for the expectation to be that they should, and that they should operate based in response, is extremely unfair when you are in a profession that is based in a creative process. Like, it's just extremely unfair. So rappers by all means can be role models, and I feel like to a lot of people that they are, but I also feel like it could potentially be a generational thing where, like, for us, right, when as we get older, have kids, whatever the case may be, when we looking at, we probably gonna have a completely different outlook on rappers that our kids like, or whatever the case may be, because we have a little bit of a different understanding of one, how different music is in general, but then two, just it should be a conversation with your kids if that's where y'all at. It's like, hey, you listen to that, cool, I feel you. And I'm not saying, like, as parents there's no need to still be cognizant and conscious of what your kids listen to at a specific age, because I agree that there's a certain age you should be hearing certain things. But once they get to that age, there should, like, if I got a 14, 15-year-old son, if I got a 14, 15-year-old son or daughter listening to rap music, it ain't like don't listen to that. It's like, okay, what do you think this means?
Exactly.
It's like, okay, I can understand. As a parent, you can look like, okay, I've been there, or I've heard it, so I get what you're saying, but also understand that's them. That they rapping about their life. That's not something you have to do. And I think you can understand it, but you can do your own thing.
That takes into that also, like, everything you just said, that takes into the consideration of the parents that are, like, engaged in their children's lives as far as what they're listening to. Yeah. Now you have to take into account for the people that's out there that don't have that is why it's related to them. Like, it's so many factors that plays part into the stigma that is placed upon hip hop. But it's like, if you're not looking at every side of where this is coming from, like, you really don't have shit to say. Like, you don't. It's like, okay, I understand. I only want to be worried about my kid and what my kid is listening to. Yeah. But there's a reason that your kid is trying to break out and listening to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and what you just said, if they're of that age, and if you're not having those conversations with them as far as what do you think this means and shit like that, then motherfucker, you can't be mad at the artist for putting out their art. You know what I'm saying? That shit is selling. They're eating off of that thing. You know what I'm saying? They're living. They're surviving. Like,
I mean, I feel like prime example, and probably a great way to kind of wrap this up is, so we both talked about it before. Like, you talked about your pops, like my pops, my mom's, like, they come from a different era, a different generation of music in general. You feel me? Man. Mom's like neither of my parents were into hip hop. My mom, I'm saying, like, my mom, she was in gospel, soul, R&B. Like that's her era. My pops, that's jazz, like R&B. Like he may know like old school hip hop, but neither of them were fans. So growing up, it's like to them everything that was coming out when I was coming up was they had so many terms for it. You know that the boom bap or that whatever, like you know that dabble. You don't even know what they're saying. You know, whatever they want to say. That's how they saw the music. But I even talked with my mom sometime, and like it got to a point where she understood how much I messed with Cole. Like I remember the first Cole concert I ever went to, 2011. Yeah, 2011. Yeah, because it was for Sideline Story. It was for Nick. Come on, brother. I was at all the concerts. I only missed one, and I'm pissed. Nonetheless, I was going to that Cole concert, and it got to a point where she was like, I was just driving past concert venue, and I saw J. Cole bus. Like I was gonna get on the bus, but she just saw the bus and was like, so she started to kind of understand it. Even now, like obviously we don't listen to the same music, but there was also an appreciation. But within the appreciation for it, there can be an appreciation for the difference in the music that we've experienced. And I think that's a huge part of it too, because I think sometimes what gets lost is that music in general should be all music in general is based in a creative process, something very individualistic to a degree, not individualistic in experience and perspective, but like this is the way you wanted to produce this kind of art, and that's how all music has been. So if you can know that and respect that and look at music in that lens, you shouldn't have a problem being able to differentiate between what a lot of niggas rapping about now ain't probably what they was experiencing, or it's just in terms of what the industry wants. But you gotta think back 2 decades ago, what rap industry was there for real? It was just starting. It was really just truly becoming mainstream and becoming a staple part of popular music. There was a lot of defining that had to happen. So then it got defined in the 2000s. You get to the 2010s, you get to the last half of the past decade, the music industry changes. It becomes way more about money. You introduce streaming, you introduce all these things that play a role in how people go about making music. And that's just something like, and when you talk about that, all that still goes into the conversation of being role models, because now you have artists that aren't getting into it for the art. They're not getting into it for any other reason than to get a check. So
get the fuck about.
So if their purpose is to get a check, how can you kind of expect them to be cognizant and be thinking about who's listening? Mm-hmm. They don't care who, they care how much. So it's like they don't, whatever they saying, if it's anything to begin with, they don't care about. They just want it to be streamed so they can get their bread. So I think that plays a role too, because again, as a parent or as whoever listens to music, that got to be a decision you make. That got to be something you come up with. That got to be something you figure out. What do I take from, et cetera, et cetera. Like, we can listen to our Coles, our Kendricks, whatever the case may be, and be like, I can relate to that. I feel like this is something I experienced in life. I can take something he said, a lyric he said, and roll with it. And we can listen to the internet babies, and they can be like, I'm sorry, y'all not internet babies. But we can listen to the internet babies, and we can be like, that music cool. I don't relate. I don't relate to Young Boy. I don't relate to nothing Young Boy be talking about.
That shit fire.
Young Boy make great music. Like, he makes solid music though. I can rock with it. I can get with it. You know what I'm saying? But like, I don't personally relate to a lot of Young Boy music. The same with your Uzis or whatever. Like, it's great music. I don't relate to it, but I can differentiate. Like, I'm not gonna take a Uzi lyric and feel like that's a life motto. Whereas Cole got plenty of lyrics that I feel like I can apply to life. Same with Kendrick. Same with your Chris. You can put Drake in that conversation. Like, there's a difference, but as a music listener, I feel like that's up to you. You got to make that decision on, because at the end of the day, you can choose who's a role model for you. So if you're gonna choose a rapper, you should be making a decision based on what comes with that from what you listen to. It shouldn't be a default thing, which I feel like a lot of people fall into. So that's. If I had any way to sum it all up from my personal standpoint, like, that's what it would be. But how would you kind of sum everything up as it pertains to that stigma of violence in hip hop, and whether that should force or be the sole reason why we look at hip hop artists as role models?
I mean, Yeah, I don't feel like you can take a different route than what you said, honestly.
It's hard. Like it's because if you don't take that route, it's unfair, and unfair is unfair. Like it ain't no other way to put it. So it's tough. But I mean, it's so many things because that can go into so many different conversations about the industry and the expectations. It's all things we touched on too. Like it's so many different moving parts of the industry, especially now where it's like, what do you want to focus on? Like what specific conversation are we having in regards to this topic? Because the smallest, I mean, we've even experienced an episode like the smallest change of a word in a question changes everything about that question. So you have to be very intentional if you're gonna have a music debate conversation to be open minded.
Nice.
What are we talking about? What guidelines are we looking at that question in, and what question are we trying to answer? So I mean, rappers are role models undoubtedly, but the expectation of them being being clean cut, I guess, or
there's no such thing as a clean cut role model.
That's hella real. In general, I don't think there is somebody that can be seen as a role model that doesn't have a flaw.
To be a role model, exactly what you said. To be a role model, you had to have your flaws. You had to go through your shit that turns your mindsets into like, nigga, let me educate you real quick. You don't get to the point of trying to educate somebody without understanding your fuck ups, your losses, and all that shit. Like that goes into creating the idea of somebody wanting to be a role model. What the idea of what a role model is. So,
big facts.
Rappers can and should be role models.
We really turned our psychology hats on for this episode. You know what I'm saying? You feel me, dog? But nah, like it's gonna keep getting deeper. It's gonna keep getting out. This just the beginning. I don't know. We still got so many things to tap into. Like
I see how we coming.
We see how we coming, man. But stay tapped in. Like, please, like, comment. Let us know what y'all think about all the conversations we had. Like, we had these conversations not just for us. Like, we genuinely want to know, like, what other people are thinking. Like, we just two people that look at music a specific way, and we understand that is not even the norm, but like it's just not the only way people are looking at music and receiving music now. So definitely let us know, like, challenge us, like we challenge each other all the time on music. So just keep that up, keep that going. That's the vibe we going for, man. And shoot, till next time, bro.
Next time, man.
Interlude, man. Peace.
In your bag for the day, you looking bad as you wanna. Thought you had a man, I made a fat.